Hello everyone, today I'll be reviewing The Sound of Music. So The Sound of Music came out in 1965 and it's a musical film directed by Robert Wise and it stars Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer. This movie is set in Salzburg in Austria in the late 1930s and Julie Andrews plays Maria Von Trapp, who is tasked with taking care of a family of 7 children who live in this rich house with their father, who's played by Christopher Plummer. And Christopher Plummer, or Captain Von Trapp, as his character is known as in this film, he is very strict with the children. And we see right at the start of this film the captain is very strict and he has all these kids line up. He blows his whistle and then they come marching down the stairs and we get this brilliant scene where they each step forward and say their names to Maria Von Trapp so she knows who they are. And then Maria is basically left with the task of looking after these children, and she finds that she actually gets to know these children a lot more than their father does, and she brings out a real sense of fun with them. And she ends up sort of, obviously this is a musical film, so she ends up singing lots of songs with them and taking them out and things like this, and just making the kids have an exciting time, something which the captain obviously wasn't doing with the kids. So obviously, being a musical film, this has lots of great songs in it, and actually loads of the songs in this are good fun. So we have Do Re Mi, My Favourite Things, 16 Going on 17, but obviously the most iconic song from the film is the song The Sound of Music, and we get that opening scene right at the start of the film where Maria Von Trapp is on this hill surrounded by all these trees with this really impressive landscape, and the camera zooms in and she starts singing the song The Sound of Music, and it's a really good opening scene, really sets up the film very well for what is to come, and we really get a sense that this is a musical and that there is going to be lots of singing involved. This film was actually very successful in terms of winning Oscars, so it won 5 Oscars including Best Picture and Best Director, and it was actually very successful at the box office, not only in America and the UK but also worldwide. It was internationally a very big film, and it actually overtook Gone with the Wind to become the highest grossing film of all time. That's how successful it was, and still today it's still a very well-known film, and the American Film Institute actually named this as number 4 on the greatest movie musicals of all time. So it's definitely one of those musicals which has a very good reputation. And this film did come out in the 1960s, which was a time when we had lots of those musicals. So obviously the year before this was Mary Poppins, which also had Julie Andrews in it. And then a few years before that there was West Side Story, which was a musical, and that was actually directed by Robert Wise, who also directed this film. An interesting thing about this film is that because it's set in Austria in the late 1930s, there is a bit of a link there with the Second World War and the growing tension with the Nazis wanting to take over. So we see the swastika a few times and we get a sense that Captain Von Trapp is a very proud Austrian, and there's actually one scene where he invites lots of people over to his house and he has the Austrian flag there. So he's obviously a very proud Austrian, very patriotic, and doesn't want to give in to the Nazis. And this can be seen as quite a patriotic film from an Austrian point of view, which I quite like. And we get, towards the end, we do get some scenes with some Nazis. But obviously, I won't spoil the ending for you, but that does build up to the end quite nicely. The scenery is really beautiful. Obviously, I mentioned at the start of this film, we get the on the hills with all the trees. It's just a very nice looking film, and even with the obviously the house that the Von Trapps live in, because they're very rich, live in a very nice house, and that's very nice to look at. And we get some excellent shots of the hills as they go out and the town, and it all just looks very, very picturesque, I suppose, this film, which is very nice. And the tone of this film, obviously being a musical, you won't be surprised. It's a very joyful film, generally a very happy, optimistic film, and this is really what the character of Maria Von Trapp is all about. So at the start of the film we do get something quite funny, because there's this song called How Do You Solve a Problem Like Maria, which is a pretty catchy tune, and we have the sisters at the monastery singing that song, and it really shows that Maria is obviously a character who is unlike anybody else and perhaps isn't really fitting in at the monastery, which is why she's sent off to look after these children in Salzburg. Now, I should mention this film is a very long film. It's 2 hours 54 minutes, so yeah, almost 3 hours long, and it does have an intermission and an entr'acte halfway through, which splits the film up quite nicely. But I watched it all in one go, and I actually found that the film moved quite quickly. There weren't really particularly many dull moments in this film. It really did seem to flow quite nicely, and the film does manage to transition quite smoothly from one musical song to some conversations we have to get to know the characters before we get another musical number. So it all flows very well. Personally, musicals are not really my favourite type of film, so I'd be lying if I said this was one of my favourite films or favourite things like in the film. Anyway, but however, I do appreciate it, and it is a very fun film, and it's a very good musical. In terms of the musicals I've seen, it probably is one of the best, and it really is an excellent family film to watch as though. It's very family friendly. There's no material likely to offend or harm here. So this is a film I can really recommend to absolutely everyone, unless it's someone who really hates musicals and doesn't like hearing people sing and dance. So there we go. So I'm going to give The Sound of Music a rating of 8 out of 10. In terms of a musical, it's very good. A decent, fun, for a family type film, a good musical. However, not one of my favourite films, but hey, you can't please everyone. So there we go. So that is my review of The Sound of Music. So what do you guys think? Have you seen The Sound of Music? I bet you have. I think everyone's seen this film. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.